because you're going to attract the experiences you need to grow your soul, but also to bring forth what it is that you're desiring.
Hello there, it's Mandy Woodard, and this is Courageous Conversations. This show is all about our life journey and the growing and healing we go through. Sometimes it takes great courage to step out of where we are and choose a different path. I started this show because I wanted you to know that you are not alone, no matter where you are in your life journey. And my hope is that you will hear a story that I share or a conversation that I have, and you will get something out of it. You will have an aha moment or a realization, and you'll know what you need to do, because it is my belief that we are all here to help each other grow and become the best version of ourselves and find what our purpose is. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Let's get started.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. It is August 25th, 2023, and I am going to be so transparent with you. I have not recorded a podcast in almost 2 months. So I sat down at my desk and I feel like a fish out of water. I couldn't find my cord for my headphones. My laptop was dead. I didn't know where my stuff was. It's also Mercury in retrograde, if you didn't know that. It started August 24th and it's going all the way till September 16th. So yay for us. If you're having issues with any technology or getting yourself straight, just blame it on that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to blame it on that. No problem. Okay, really though, where have I been? Here's what I can say. This past summer was a summer of teaching. It was life teaching me, life lessons. And I would love to share them all, but I just don't think we have that kind of time together, my friend. You know what I just realized? I said the date in the beginning of this episode and it's not the day that it's going live. Okay, so I'm recording on the 25th of August. I just happened to be recording today because I was supposed to record this episode many times and all in perfect timing. I believe that. But actually this episode goes live August 29th. But today, on the 25th, marks 6 years since I closed on the home that I am in now. And I wanted to talk about manifesting because I haven't gotten to dive into that yet. It's a very popular topic. It's definitely become a catchphrase and something people just say, but I really wanted to talk about it and share my experience with manifesting because I don't know. Do I want to make you a believer? Do I want you to see what's possible? Maybe all of the above. So the reason why I bring up closing on my home is because it is one of my favorite things that I have ever manifested. And I know I've told at least the short version of the story many times, but I kind of wanted to get into all of the details of it today because when you are manifesting something, it sometimes feels like it's never going to happen. And truthfully, sometimes it doesn't. Because what you think is correct for you is not always what's correct for you. And it can look way different than you expected. The thing is there are a lot of twists and turns and lessons in life that sometimes need to happen before you get that thing. Because if you get that thing that you want too soon, then it's not the same. It doesn't feel the same. It might not even look the same. I hope you're following me here. So I bring up my summer of lessons because as we were going through this past summer, and all the things that just kept happening. I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? I mean, things totally out of our control. And I will hit on it. I will hit on it later. I don't want to like do a spoiler alert or anything here, but I can see where I literally asked for something in the beginning of this year. When I wrote my January list out, I wrote something very specific down. And after about 3 or 4 of these life events, I started to see the pattern and what was happening each time. And it just really made so much sense to me. And I don't mean to be so vague about it, but I don't know if I'm ready to share the full details. So let me just tell you my favorite manifesting story. And before I say that, here's what I want you to know about manifesting. There really isn't a whole lot to it, but I do think that there is a scotch more than just the ask, believe, receive mantra that's said. I do think there is a key to manifesting, but let's go into story time. So when my 16-year-old was 1.5, 2, he and I were sitting together coloring a picture. We were sitting at the island of this townhouse that we lived at, and we were waiting for my husband to get home from work. And I remember I was just trying to fill the time. Like I needed to do something with him. Of course, he was a toddler, so he was getting into things. So I put him on my lap and we started coloring this picture together. We started drawing it with crayons. We were drawing a home, and he would direct me and tell me what to draw. But together, we drew this big roof, lots of windows, basketball hoop, a tree in the front. And just as soon as we were done, my husband walked through the door, and I handed Tristan the paper and said, "Go tell Daddy to buy us a house like this." And he did. He climbed down off my lap. He ran over, gave his daddy a big old hug, and then said, "Daddy, buy us this house." And my husband said, "Oh, buddy, I would need to make a lot more money in order to get a house like that." We kind of just laughed about it and then hung it on the fridge. And it stayed there for, I would say, at least three-ish years when we moved. And then it got shuffled into a box, and that was that. Here's the thing. We were broke. We were so broke back then. My husband's income was like below the median, I think, for whatever the average was then. I had a photo business, but I was struggling to turn a profit. I feel like I'm going to talk about that one day too. I mean, I was not charging appropriately at all. In fact, it was costing me money to run my business, and our bills were high. I mean, bad decisions, debt. I could go on and on about it. And I could easily say why we would think that it would never happen for us. Like, we never thought we would be able to get out of the position we were in. We really just felt trapped and stuck where we were, and barely making it in this townhouse we bought as a foreclosure that we fixed up the best we could, and miserable. I was pretty miserable there. And I hate to not be grateful because I had a home. I mean, we were semi-okay. But I was pretty miserable. I was not happy there. But in 2012, which was years later, I went to register him for kindergarten. And when I walked into that school, something just felt totally off. It just did not feel right. It wasn't anything in particular. Well, maybe the office ladies, they were just a little bit cold. I felt like they were a little bit cold. But really, it was just me. It was just an energy thing. So as I'm sitting there filling out this paperwork, I just stopped what I was doing and I left. I said, "Come on, let's go. We'll finish this later." And I got in the car and I called my husband and said, "Either we are putting him in private school or we are moving. We are going to have to find a way to move." And that had been something we'd wanted to do for a very long time, but we just did not think it was possible. We did not think it was possible. But here's the thing. We were in a little bit better position than we were. But here's the thing. when something is for you, stuff just works out. And you're like, wow, I can't even believe that just worked out like that. We were totally underwater with this townhouse and we had to rent it out. And so we did. As I sit here and like think back to how complex this was and how you needed this thing to work in order for this thing to work so that this thing could work and this thing could work. Like it just was like one puzzle piece and then the next, all just clicking into place. So I called this builder in the town over, and they just happened to have a massive deal going on for their houses that they were building. They were trying to finish out what they were doing. It was the last lots that they were building on. The market wasn't that great yet. I mean, we're still recovering from the huge bottom out in 2009. So we get in with them. That works out. We put our house for rent sign up in front of our townhouse. We get a renter so we put that sign up on a Friday, and by the next Friday we had tenants. And then the next Friday we were moving into my mom's house where we stayed for 6 or so months and was able to save enough money because we had renters, and then we could prove that as rental income because I think it's like 6 months, at least back then it was. It was like just one thing and then the other thing and then the other thing that all just kept working out. So we built this cute little house in the school district we wanted to be in. And within 6 to 8 months, our lives looked drastically different. And we loved that little house until we grew out of it. But again, I felt this shift. The same shift I felt back when I called my husband and said, we got to move. I felt it again. And I went to him again and said, I think we got to move again. And what's funny about us is it's always my idea. I always get that inspiration. And then he always figures out the timing. Like if I come to him, because gosh, you know how many ideas I've come to this man with. And sometimes he's like, no, that's crazy. No. Actually, I don't think he ever says that's crazy. But he's definitely been like, put a pin in that one for a time period, please. But if it's right, he knows it. He is just as intuitive as I am, and he knows it, and he takes action. And then it's like, phew, we are unstoppable. What's happening is happening, and there is no stopping it every time. So I think I said we need to move like that first week of August 2016. And by the second week of realtor, it was again that same thing. 1 week and then 1 week and then 1 week. And by the next week, a realtor was hired and the house was on the market. And again, we went back to my mom's. Thank God we had that opportunity. But this time it was only supposed to be for a few weeks, like maybe 9 weeks max. But guess what? We ended up hitting roadblocks. And it'll make sense why we hit roadblocks by the time I'm done with this story. Because remember what I said, when something is correct, it will just start working. Things will just start falling into place and you'll be like, wow, how did that happen? We had put that house on the market with the intention of going to a different neighborhood. And we really thought that's where we wanted to be. I mean, we loved the homes. The fact that we were even going to be able to be over there was like this huge blessing. We were so excited about it. We put 2 contracts to build another house, and both of them fell through. And we were devastated. We really were. I mean, I had gone through the whole process twice to picking out the floor plan, all the finishes, all these things, and then it fell through. Not once, but twice. All the while kind of knowing like the lots that we were picking were like, okay. You know, I am such an energy person. I've got to feel the good energy. And both times I was kind of like pushing that away. And I was not, do we use the word woo-woo? I was not super woo-woo back then. I did believe that everything happens for a reason. I've carried that belief for a very long time. But I was not like seeing how things were working in our favor. But both these lots fall through. And it was because we also had to sell our townhouse and we were struggling to sell that. We struggled to sell the little house that we built, and then we struggled to sell the townhouse. And it was all divine. It really was. One day we're super defeated and we just start riding around. And we ride back to the neighborhood that we're in now. We really didn't think it was attainable to move over here, because when we first looked over here, the lot prices were way too high, the home prices were way too high, and they weren't even opening the lots that we would have wanted. They didn't even know when they were going to open them. But here we are, super defeated. We go for this drive, and we're like, let's just pull in and talk to the lady in the model house. So on this particular day, we go in, and the lady was in there. Her name was Mary, and she said, "Oh, you're in luck." She said, "You just have to drive up the street. You're going to love these lots. You have to just ride up there and look at these lots." I think she even went with us. So we drove up to the lots where we are, and here we are, standing in what is now where our home is. And me and Richie just looked at each other, and we were like, well, this is it. In that moment, we knew this is exactly why those other 2 contracts fell. We were back into the woods now. It's so peaceful up here. So we signed the papers immediately and went through the process. And here we are, 6 years later, on the day, we closed on our home. But here's the best part about it. This is the whole beautiful part. When we moved into this house, we were unpacking all these boxes that hadn't even gotten unpacked from the townhouse. And I see this box and it says fridge on it. And I get into it and I pull out this paper that I had drawn a house on with Tristan when he was 1.5 years old. And I was just blown away. I had every window in the correct spot, every peak of our roof in the right spot, even down to the front little porch thing. The only difference is I did a little peek and we have more of that Juliet type balcony. The tree in the front yard, which came later. The basketball hoop, which went up immediately. And everything was pretty much a match. I laughed. I really laughed. And it was that summer, before we moved in here, that we watched the movie The Secret. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it's about the law of attraction. It talks about you ask, believe, receive. And it literally told the story of this man who cut out a picture of his dream home, put it on a vision board, and then moved into it 15 years later. Didn't even realize it until he pulled his vision board out. I love that concept. I do resonate with the law of attraction. I just think there's a little bit that needs to be told in conjunction with it. Like there's some other pieces to that. And it has a lot to do with being in resonance, like really feeling it. But when I saw that picture, I just was blown away. And honestly, I put it back. I didn't want anything to happen to it, so I put it back in the box. It's in my basement somewhere. I really got to go dig it back up. You know, having just learned about the law of attraction and then seeing that, I just felt like I had this proof in my hands 8 to 9 years after I originally drew it. But the next thing that I realized is that this is the exact neighborhood that I drove by when I was in high school, going to work, and thought, that's where I want to raise my family. If the other neighborhood worked out, I wouldn't be saying that. But every time I drove to work, I would look over and see these homes. They were just being built at the time. And think, man, that looks like the perfect neighborhood to raise a family in. I mean, I can't tell you how often I thought that. And now here I am in the exact neighborhood. I know that I have been manifesting my whole life. You probably have been too. But here's what we have to know. It's not always going to arrive on this silver platter. It's not always just going to show up. How many hoops did we jump through? I mean, we went to a whole different house before we ended up here. And there are people that are like, you can manifest quickly. I don't know. I kind of want to contest that. These coaches that are like, manifest fast. Maybe you can. Maybe I have a limiting belief here. I don't know. But sometimes I think there's lessons that need to be learned. And you're not going to just manifest that thing so fast because it's not time yet. It's not your time yet for that thing. And You're welcome to disagree with me if you're woo-woo and you love to manifest like I do, and maybe you manifest things very quickly. But I believe that there has to be another piece first. And that piece is alignment. It has to be in alignment. Are you operating in alignment? And the other thing that I already mentioned is being in resonance. Feeling. What's the feeling? You want that house, but why? How is it going to make you feel? And then how can you allow yourself to feel that now? So without even knowing that I was doing this, because I truly did not, in 2016, I had made that little house a home, 100%. Made that a home. Felt so much gratitude for it. Believe me, after being out of that townhouse, I felt so much gratitude. And honestly, the townhouse wasn't that bad either. I may be exaggerating a little. It's definitely an energy thing. And oh my gosh, I could go into that too, because I remember saying to my husband, I can't explain it. I just feel like there's a lot of negative energy here. And then the next week, when watching Oprah, they were talking about feng shui and energy in your home and where your home sits in reference to where the sun rises and sets. And it was literally opposite for us in that place. And the people that lived there before us were drug dealers. We found a lot of crap in the ceiling. And we had criminals down the street that were stealing very expensive materials that I won't even get into right now, but there was just a lot of criminal activity happening around us, and I didn't even feel safe to take my kid on a walk. So I hope it's not like that anymore there. It is a cute neighborhood, but there was a moment there where it didn't look so good. So I felt the energy of all the things happening around me, but then also the feng shui of the house. This is my whole point is, gosh, trust yourself. Just trust yourself. I knew the energy was bad there. I knew that I wasn't supposed to stay there, that my family wasn't supposed to stay there. And then what happened? We made the decision. And another key factor here to this, very long story at this point, is I watched that about the energy. And then the next week, Oprah did this like 5-day thing with Tony Robbins. He is the greatest motivator of all time, I believe. And I watched him and took notes. And I gotta find that notebook, man. I know it's around here somewhere. But I took notes. This was 2012. I took notes, and then I went to the school to register Tristan for kindergarten, and that's when I made this decision because I had him playing in my ear that you just have to decide. So is that the third point to manifesting? You have to decide that you're going to take action and walk in that direction of what it is that you want. You have to decide. So I made the decision because we have free will. We have the ability to decide if we're going to move forward or not. We decided. But guess what? In 2016, when I decided again, I had also just watched a Tony Robbins documentary, I Am Not Your Guru, on Netflix. And I heard him yelling this. If you're not happy, change it. If you don't like where you live, move. If you don't like your job, quit. I know what you're thinking. It's not that simple. But it is that simple. It's just not easy. Simple and easy are two different things. It could be a very simple yes or no thing, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. But if you want more out of life, if you want to create this life that you feel good living, oh man, stop letting yourself be unhappy where you are. Stop doing it. And I know, marriage is hard. Work is not always the best. But if it is perpetually a problem for you, you got to figure out how to shift. That's all. What is needed to shift? And what do you truly want in life? Because you can manifest it. And don't just snarl away or brush away any of these little experiences that happen. In the meantime, you can create your reality, but you have to believe it. We have to believe it. We have to feel it. We have to believe it. What are you dialed into? What's the frequency you're putting out? Is the glass half full or half empty? Because you're going to attract the experiences you need to grow your soul, but also to bring forth what it is that you're desiring. That crazy summer of lessons that I was talking about at the beginning of this. Well, okay, here, I'll tell you. In January, I was listing out my wants for the year. And one of my biggest ones was a stronger and closer relationship with my husband. I really wanted us to be able to break some of these cycles that we have been repeating. And we all tend to repeat cycles. But here's the thing. Our cycles can really suck sometimes. And it involves us not getting along and not working together. And then it's like, And I think that's pretty common. Relationships are meant to grow you. And sometimes you're in relationships that are easy. And, I talked to another projector on my podcast a few months ago, and she shared this, that her and her husband have a very easy relationship, but she struggles in other areas of life. Well, sometimes our relationships are a little more of a struggle at times, but it's because we have growing to do. We have totally different beliefs, as many of you have heard, because we recorded a whole episode about it, and he might not even agree with what I'm about to say. But as of right now, when I turn back and reflect on everything that happened this summer, all the lessons that were learned this summer, I can see where every one of them were orchestrated to help us move towards each other more, because we had no choice. We had to work together as a team. I had no choice but to lean into him and listen to his intuition as well as mine. And now I look and I see this massive growth that we've had over like the last 12 to 16 weeks. And I'm in awe, because I can see that I manifested this. And who knows, we might hit a bump in the road. Give me another 6 months, I'll let you know. But 20 years together, we have never stopped growing. So you see, it's not always a silver platter. Doors open that make no sense. We walk down paths that we're like, what does this even have to do with what I want out of life? I mean, shoot. We can continue on about that too. How did I end up here? It's because I opened a door that I was like, oh, this doesn't make sense, but let me walk through it anyway. There's no wrong paths. No wrong paths. It is all designed to lead you back to your destiny. There are no wrong marriages. There are no wrong jobs. There are no wrong houses. It's all there to teach you and guide you and lead you to where it is that you want to go. And sometimes it's faster and sometimes it takes time. But what matters is that you are in alignment and you are staying in your frequency and holding that frequency, holding that space. What are you calling in? Are you even clear on what you want? Because if you're not, you're just going to get a mixed bag. And maybe that's okay. Maybe you're good with that. That's fine. But get clear. Write it, draw it, feel it, believe it. Set it, and then forget it. Pack it into a box and find it when you move 10 years later. So do you know, speaking of paths, by the way, as the story goes, I saw that picture in my box. And it was less than a month later, the idea for the Amanda Hoyle Show came to me. And universe just showed off with how everything lined up. And next thing you know, I have a crew of people in my kitchen. And I have this cooking show. And it's on YouTube. You can go watch some of the episodes. I kept some of them up. Just go to youtube.com/Amanda Hoyle. But that literally started me on my coaching path. Because that summer, before we had moved, I was trying to start a blog. I wanted to just teach people how to create the life they wanted to live. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was talking about. And that fall, the show came to me and it became a thing. And it literally jump-started my coaching journey. So here I am now recording a podcast, which is funny because when the show stopped, that was one of the things. Well, why don't you just do a podcast instead? And then I didn't do it for 5 years, but I digress. And you know what? My journey is far from over. I think we all know that. We can all say that for ourselves, but I can definitely sit here and tell you, like, I'm only getting started. I am only just getting started. And I do hate that I wasn't able to record this summer, but I also don't, because I do know that there was a reason for that. And I do know that I am now back with a bang, and I'm not going to be missing a week now. You can guarantee it. I'll be here. I've got some phenomenal guests lined up, and I can't wait to share their stories with you. And we're actually coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. I'm very excited about that. I'm thinking I'm going to do something fun for that. So stay tuned. And I'm going to be putting together some other offers. I've got some stuff in the works that I'm super, super excited about. I'm about to schedule teaching Reiki level 1 in October. So if you're local to me, hit me up if you're interested in that, because I'll make sure you get in. I'll make sure you get first pick because it's very limited seating. But lots of exciting stuff coming. And even though this summer was difficult, it's okay because, we've literally had a drought this summer. It has been so dry here. But what happens? There's always going to be some rain. So what comes when you finally get the rain? You get beautiful flowers. And then what else? I don't know. I'm rambling with this analogy, and I'm going to stop now. But here's what I'm going to say. If you loved this episode, please share it. It would mean so much to me. The more ears that I can get on this thing, the longer I can do it. And of course, I will never end an episode without saying, for you to remember that you are loved and you are valued and you are appreciated. Bye now.